This has been a Fox League production.
Test, the international triple header, live on Fox League.
This program brought to you by Tab. Get on all the action at your local, on your phone or online. Tab, we love a bet.
Welcome to League Legends on Fox Sports, where we explore the living history of rugby league in the best possible and most enjoyable way, and that's by talking with it. Our guest this time has set the sporting bar ridiculously high. Mike Cleary represented Australia at Rugby Union, Rugby League and athletics before entering politics and going on to serve as state member for nearly 2 decades and as a minister in the New South Wales government for 8 years. Mike Cleary, welcome to League Legends.
Well, it's nice to be here, Tim.
Mike, when did you realise that you could run fast? And by that I mean seriously fast.
Well, I was born in 1940. I grew up at the cliffs of Dover Heights. Dad built a nice house there right in front of the army camp, right in front of the cliff face. The road wasn't even sealed, it was sleepers. And I just ran. I just took off. And I'd run to Bondi. And I'd run everywhere. They couldn't catch me. No one could catch me. Actually, no one could catch me doing anything until I was 12 years of age. Up till 12 years of age, I was invincible. I was boxing champion of school, I was handball champion, I was running champion. And it wasn't until 6th class that I remember standing in a queue waiting for our sportsmaster to go through some physical culture things, and a fella called Ron Blake broke away. He's a tall fella. And I couldn't catch him. And I thought, what's happened? Something's happened. And I realised all my speed had gone. I couldn't even get in in a cricket team. I couldn't get into a football team. I couldn't get into a relay side. And I realised I was small. I was so small that at the end of my races, I used to run under the tape. They'd set it for chest in and I'd run under it. And I was running 75 yards then, and then because at 12 years of age, it went to 100 yards and 200 yards. And I didn't have the strength. And it wasn't until I was 16 and a half, it all came back.
It all came back.
All came back as quick as that. I ran into a 100-yard race and I did 10.6, 16 and a half years of age. And I thought, gee, that's not bad. 6 months later, I lined up at the sports ground for the Cardinals Cup. And I ran the Cardinals Cup and I ran it in 9.8. I was just back, it was all back again. And I, gee, how good's this? I was in the first 15, I was in the first 11, I was doing everything again. But sports to me was just a way of life. I just loved it. I had problems at school.
Yeah, at the same time, you're being told you're a slow learner, aren't you?
Well, they told me I was a slow learner and they said I was hypoactive. It turned out to be ADD and dyslexic. No, I had to repeat classes all the time. I was 19 years of age when I left school. I would have wanted to go back and Mum said, you can't go back. She said, you'll be there with your kids. So I had to leave. I mean, they offered me a scholarship. And that year too, I got a scholarship to go to Stanford in university in California, a rugby union scholarship. And how did I get to rugby union? I wasn't interested in rugby union when I left school. I was just going to Stanford University, and I thought I got beautiful references from Knox College, from the Sportsmaster, from Trinity College, and I missed out on national service because I'd won this scholarship. And I said, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay here. I'm just too far away. It's 4 days away, America. I don't want to go there. And I wouldn't have got through the entrance exam. That's the trouble, as it turned out. You know, I'd never read a book. Even when I became Minister for Sport, I had to get briefed. So I just went back to the old days and put headings and all that sort of thing, and away I went.
Was there any way in that era you could have pursued athletics and made a life?
That was my main aim. My main aim was to go to the Rome Olympics. And it was in that 59 era that I contracted glandular fever. And no one knew what it was in those days. I was on the road, I'd left my old man's shop, who had a business shop, a menswear shop, and I was working for a firm called Colonial Sales selling Arrow shirts. And I used to drive to Parramatta to David Jones car park, and for some unknown reason, I'd go to sleep in the car. I'd fall asleep. And I went to Dad sent me to a doctor in Macquarie Street, and he couldn't work it out. He said, but he did say to me one day, take this tablet a couple of hours before you run. Oh, okay. So I took the tablet, went to E.S. Marks Field, a running race, still couldn't run well, couldn't do well. And I went back to the doctor and he said, how did you go with the tablet? I said, had no effect. Thank God they didn't do testing, because he told me it was Benzedrine. I said, oh, but it didn't have any effect. So he said, you've got glandular fever. And they put me on vitamin tablets and resting and all that thing for a few months. And then the Rome Olympics trials were on, and I missed them. I missed them because I couldn't run. There was Jim McCann and Donnie Bursell and Dennis Tipping, fellas that I could beat. And then they had a match race at the AJC to raise funds for the Commonwealth, for the Olympic Games team going to Rome. And I got on the mark, got set, won the race. All of a sudden, I'd come back again. I got over the glandular fever, but there was only 2 weeks to go. They were going away, so they didn't send me to Rome. So I finished up going down to Randwick. And how I got to Randwick to play rugby union was that Wally Marr and Cyril Towers, two old greats of Randwick, they came into Dad's shop at Bondi Junction and said, will Michael come down and play for Randwick? Dad said, I don't know, he's trying for the Rome Olympics. So he said, do you want to go down and play for Randwick? I said, I think I might do that, Dad. I said, but I'll probably go down and play third grade or something. So I went down there, went straight into first grade. Finished up that year, I got 54 tries that season. And I've still got the record at Randwick for the most tries in one game, 7 tries in one game.
Mike, illness kept you from trialling properly for the Rome Olympics. Then you set your sight on the Empire Commonwealth Games in Perth in 1962. You actually came third in the 100 yards. It wasn't judged that way. You miss your podium experience. You're not in the photo, and yet you still get your medal. How did they get it to you?
I went on TV the next day and they played the race. And someone made a comment. They said, hey, listen, they've given that to the wrong Australian. I said, yeah. They had Serafino Anteo from Kenya first, Tommy Robinson from Bahama second, Gary Holsworth, Australia, third. Gary knew I beat him because he congratulated me after we were sitting down taking our spikes off. So they played it about 8 times that day on the Sunday. I thought no more of it. I was going out for the final, the 200 or the 220 yards. The starter said, on your marks. So we did our marks. Then all of a sudden, stand up, stand up. So up we got. And the voice comes over the PA system. Ladies and gentlemen, the judges have reviewed the photo finish of the 100 yards. Realised a mistake has been made, and it's Cleary from Australia third. So I never got on the dais. The starter says, get on your marks. And I'm starting to shake like a leaf. I'm shaking. I came in 5th. The Wednesday after, I was in the dining room of the village having lunch with Linda McGill and Dawn Fraser, Tony Madigan, and in walked Arthur Tunstall from the Amateur Athletic Association, and he handed me that medal. I said, here's your medal. He said, sorry for all the trouble and thanks for being a good sport, because I never kicked up a stick. You didn't in those days, you just copped it on the chin. So that medal has been in my wardrobe at home for 54 years. And I don't even know if it's a brand new medal, because when you turn it over and have a look at the back, they've look like they've rubbed someone else's name on it and put my name on it, but still, it's mine and it's my pride and joy. Great history, you know. So then, of course, I had to turn pro. Came back from there and had to turn pro because I got picked to go to England, and I couldn't go away without relinquishing the amateur status. So away I went to England and to a place called Ilkley. After having battles with Mike Sullivan and Billy Boston, McTeague and Watson and Haddard and all those great players, you know. Life's been very good to me, but it's been hard work. It's been hard work, but enjoyable work.
I am Hannah Hollis. I'm a journalist and a presenter. Rugby League is my passion, it's my job, and it's my life.
The joy of travelling the world is now on sale for 1 week only. For not to be missed deals on worldwide flights, be sure to book before midnight Saturday at Webjet.
We've taken it to new places. Where will you take it? Now the sat-nav is standard. The reinvented i30.
New Drew Assist from Domino's makes online ordering even easier. This week only, when you ask Drew for a deal, you'll get
50% off pizzas.
Cool. I'll have a Supreme, thanks.
Get 50% off pizzas with Drew Assist from Domino's.
No matter what we do in life, we owe it to ourselves and our families to make smart choices about our super. That's why we've chosen MTAA Super.
At Best and Less, get gifts that are guaranteed to make Mum's day, guaranteed to make her feel special, and guaranteed to warm her heart. Best of all, you can get the perfect Mother's Day gift from just $10. That's why we're called Best and Less.
Once, we all thought flying was impossible. Then we realized there are no limits. Enjoy the freedom of limitless broadband data from just $69.99 a month on a no-lock-in contract. From iiNet, the #1 in customer service. With iiNet, the potential is limitless.
Two legends together at last. KFC marinated in Tabasco sauce.
Men's violence against women is a big problem. And as a father of 3 young daughters, it's very personal. But when you see the young men who go through the Voice Against Violence program, you get to understand how rugby league can be the driver of change. It's almost like there's that light bulb moment when they go, I understand where he's coming from. And it's the amazing power of sport, and in particular rugby league.
The greatest show on earth returns to Sydney. The hits will be bigger. The plays will be bolder. The crowds will be louder. Stanford Cardinal versus the Rice Owls. College Football Sydney Cup, Sunday 27th of August 2017. Book now at Ticketek.
Joseph Parker, 22 fights, 18 knockouts, no losses. The WBO World Heavyweight title, live on Fox Sports.
This program brought to you by Tab. Get on all the action at your local, on your phone or online. Tab, we love a bet.
Mike, the 1963-64 Kangaroo Tour was a fascinating who's who of the game. Summons was there, Walsh, the Thornett brothers, Gasnier. It really was an extraordinary squad, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. But the amazing thing about it was getting there. I mean, the old consolation train, the planes and all that sort of thing. I mean, we'd have to go from Sydney to Singapore to India to England, and I'd never seen anything like this. I mean, the rugby union tours were splendid. I mean, we were gods as far as rugby union was concerned, but rugby league was just another sport played in the north of England, and they were tough times. But for me, as a young fella, at 23 years of age, I thought the world became a reality. I mean, everything they tried to teach me at school, I could see. Ilkley Moor Hotel, I think they only opened it every 4 years for the kangaroos. I mean, it was fair dinkum. Morticia from the Adams family would have thought it was a palace. But oh dear, we bought cars. I bought an old Humber Hawk, cost me £12.10. I remember one day I was a dirty, I had to go out of Ilkley to do the washing, to wash the jumpers. And I got in the car and took it down. The girl at the laundromat, she did a good job of the washing, made me a nice cup of tea, and she ironed all the jumpers, which was great of her. But when I went back, when I went back after it being ironed, they'd never had an iron before. I had to go back again the next week because she did the ironing. So, memories like that, you can't forget those, and the bus tours and to the games and the cold England and the hot bath afterwards. We'd all jump into the bath with the English side and our side to keep warm.
You tour with the 63-64 Kangaroos, and Ken Irvine is the gun winger of the day. Everyone's wondering who's the quickest, Mike Cleary or Ken Irvine. You finally worked that out, but it was at a dog track back in Australia. How did that happen?
Well, Kenny had won the world professional 100 yards in 9.3, and I'd won the one at Geraldton in 9.3. So we were approached by a good friend of mine, Doug Phillips, from the National Coursing Association, and said, would you have a match race? I said, yeah. He said, we'll give you £1,000. So I said to Kenny, do you want to be in it? He said, yeah, I'll be in it. And they had 12,000 people at the dog meeting. 12,000 people to watch Kenny and I race. So it was run by the Professional Foot Running Association. And Kenny, they thought Kenny could beat me because he was quick out of the blocks, but they didn't realise that I was pretty quick out of the blocks. Being hypoactive, having a nervous Nelly, I could really get out of the blocks. So I got out of the blocks pretty quickly, and I led Kenny all the way. And we finished up splitting up the money. We got 500 each rather than supposed to be 750 and 250 for the loser, but we got 500 quid each.
Mike, the default position in the early and mid-1960s was that St George won most things. Now, describe the atmosphere when you made the 1965 grand final, because it was enormous, wasn't it, at the SCG?
Well, that's an experience. 72,000 odd people at the Sydney Cricket Ground, over the fence, up the stairway in the showground, up on the roof of the Sheridan stand. They were everywhere.
Can we show you something from that game that will bring back at least a family memory first before we talk about the actual match? Let's have a look at this.
Yeah.
Anderson to Lyle, who kicks downfield again, but Raper with keen anticipation gathers, and South's tactics are foiled once more. Mike Cleary's father watches his other son Dennis in the Union Grand Final on a portable TV set, but still takes in every part of the league.
Now, this is 1965. It hadn't been that long since Bruce Gingell had said, welcome to television, and he's got a portable television in the stand.
Well, I bought that in Singapore on the way back from England.
And so he's watching Dennis in the Rugby Union Grand Final.
It cost me 50 quid, 100, and had AC batteries. It was a little 6-inch. And Dennis was playing at the sports ground in the Rugby Grand Final, and I was playing at the cricket ground. And I said to Dad, here, take this. He said, what's that? I said, oh, it's this camera. So he put the battery over his shoulder and plugged it in. He's sitting on the stand there watching this black and white TV. Yeah, but I tell you a funny story in that game too. I mean, my dear friend Jimmy Lyle, who said to me early in the game, he said, come round me. So round I came, got the ball, looked up, and right in front of me is Kevin Ryan. Nicknamed Candos, hard as cement. Now my head came out my anus. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't want to believe it. 10 minutes later, Jimmy Lyle says, come round me. I said, get stuffed, I will. And poor old Jimmy, he had to spin around to get the ball and keep going. I wasn't going to go around for a second time.
Well, that was a tough day. Let's have a look at another piece of vision from that 1965 grand final.
From the play the ball, Jones sets the backs in motion. Lyle sends to Longbottom. On to Moses, who kicks over the heads of St George and finds the open spaces. Raper appears to have the ball covered, but Cleary's coming through fast. Raper is grounded behind his own line by Cleary, whose head strikes the turf heavily, and he's out. The Zambaks are needed to revive Cleary, who's playing in his first major Rugby League grand final. He's up and walking, but only just.
If it hadn't been for Raper, I would have got there. We could have won that. You know, South and St George, we're very close, you know. We're enemies on that field, but we're very, very close from those days. I mean, the Rapers and Sattler and Lumsden and Johnny King and Billy Smith. Oh, they were great days, you know. And you could have a fight in those days. You're not allowed to fight now either. You'd have good fun. You can't do anything now.
While you were at Souths, you did some modelling. What was the general reaction to that?
It was effeminate to be a male model.
Viewed differently then, wasn't it?
Yeah, viewed differently. And so I got into it. I used to do Ernest Hiller's suits. I did the milk ad with Noeline Batley as singer. I used to do the Gillette ad things for TV, and then I did the Country Life cigarettes. But they never went to air because they brought in a rule that you had to be over 24 to do a cigarette ad. So I got branded Michelle, and you know, they thought Don Lane and I were on together. I said, we're not on together. We've danced a couple of times, but we're not on together, you know. So in any case, they lift up your skirt and I'd hit him with your handbag. I'd say, which one, the one on the bank or the one over my arm, you know, and all that sort of thing.
Michael, finally in 1967, Saints aren't in a grand final. You beat them in the major semi and you played Canterbury. What are your memories of that match?
Well, I know it was a hard match, but they're all getting harder. But see, John O'Neill went over and then Bob McCarthy went over, so that's what really saved us. But as far as Bob McCarthy is concerned, I mean, I didn't realise he had a hammy problem. And if my memory's right, I think I came off in the second half. In the first half, I came up, my knees exploded. And I remember Bill Buckley saying to me, don't you go back on. He said, you're going on the Kangaroo Tour. So I didn't go back on, but Bobby tells a story actually when he broke away. He said he felt the back of his leg go, and he said I was looking around for me, and he said I was down the corner playing hopscotch.
Yeah, you weren't there.
Wasn't there. But thank goodness he carried on and went through and got the try. But they were good games. They were a great side, St George. I mean, around about that time too, they had the change in rule. There was they brought in the 4-tackle rule and then the 6-tackle rule, and the game changed a bit. You know, it was a lot more open, and being more open, it gave the second rowers a bit more room to move. And Bobby McCarthy in those days was probably one of the leading try scorers because he had room to move. I used to say to him, I said, for Christ's sake, if you've got a yard, I've got 2 out there, give me the ball. But it didn't happen that way. But that's the way things are. I mean, when they first changed those rules, you know, most of the coaches, instead of engulfing them and trying to make the game faster, which they were trying to do, they were trying to find out ways and means to avoid the rule and play differently. Then they had, of course, change it to the 6-tackle rule, which opened it up and gave wingers a bit more work to do with the ball being kicked to them and all that sort of thing on the 6th tackle and all that sort of thing. So, you know, it changed the game.
Michael, later in the 1960s, Manly start to become very ambitious about winning their first title. In 1968, they beat you in the major semi, and a real rivalry started to begin then, didn't it? Because the grand final was a pretty spiteful sort of affair.
Yeah, well, Bobby Fulton was playing then. I mean, he invented sledging, Bobby. He was a good sledger. And I remember playing Manly one day at Brookvale Oval, Alex Tennant. I came in the back line, and he's come through with a forearm jolt, hit me straight in the nose. I'm sitting on the ground, and the blood was pouring out of my nose, and Cole Pearce was the referee. I said, hey, Cole, what about that? He said, oh, get up and start playing. That's one thing we were taught to at South, which Sattler taught us. We never milked a penalty like they do today. They'll try anything. Sattler used to say, don't ever let those mongrels know they've hurt you. And he said, he'd come up alongside, he'd say, get up. He said, oh, I'll kick you up, get up.
There was a moment in the 1968 grand final at the SCG where the true speed that you really had was illustrated. Let's take a look.
Goes to Ward, to Fulton, Stanton, beautifully across to Batty, cuts out one man, gets it to Hannigan, he can't help, picked up by Cleary, this could be it, Cleary sets off for the line, he's got Tennant chasing him, they won't catch him, Mike Cleary is in for a try for South Sydney. Oh, beautiful move, a lucky one granted, but still, he was there to pick it up cleanly, and Mike Cleary has run the best part of 55 to 56 yards to score underneath the post to give South Sydney a lead of 7 points to 0.
One thing you notice about the shot when you're running over the line, there's a lot of daylight behind you there. They obviously didn't bother to chase you.
Well, they did. Alex Tennant, he had a shot, but I had my tail up then. I wasn't going to slow down. I mean, that's as I said, one thing I could do was run, and that was pretty clear then that they did a few dives and all that sort of thing, but no, I got away, and that was a good feeling, I tell you.
In 1970, you played Manly in the major semi, and again in the grand final. There was a lot of feeling between the two teams, and John Sattler had his jaw broken in the first few minutes of the game. He came out to you near the touch line. What happened?
That was about 2 minutes into the game. And I can still remember Sattler. He's out on the wing with me. I said, "What are you doing out here?" He said, "Hold me up." I said, "What do you mean, hold you up?" He said, I grabbed his trousers, and I've got his, and I'm holding him up. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I broke my jaw," and looked at me, and his jaw dropped. And I said, "Oh Christ, you better hold me up." I said, "I'm going to faint." And then he said, shook his head, and went back into the scrum. And John O'Neill and Bob McCarthy, they kept the ball away from him. He kept calling for the ball. And he kept taking it up and taking it up. They kept taking it away from him. They knew he was injured. We won that game. He came off the ground. I chaired him off the ground with a lot of other players. He made a victory speech. And then he went to South Sydney Hospital. And we went over to the club, the players, and the committee, this mighty committee. I'm dirty on to this day. I could absolutely rope them. They went to the Chelsea restaurant at Wallara. Very posh restaurant. All the committee and their wives left us at the club with cold beer and hot pies, celebrating our victory. They arrived back at the club at 9:30 and we got into them. When I say we, John O'Neill and myself. "You low mongrels," I said. "Here's Sattler in intensive care in hospital in the ICU unit, intensive care unit, gone into shock. You're at the Chelsea restaurant celebrating our victory. You're a team of low mongrels."
A third title with Souths in 1970. It was a little bittersweet because of Sats's injury. Why did you leave after a decade with the Rabbitohs?
I went in to negotiate my contract for 71, and I was on a massive fee, $3,000. That was my signing on fee, $3,000 and $130 a win. And the league at those times had increased the winning bonus from 40 to 80. So I instead of asked for 130, I said 170. No. So what do you mean, no? They said, "Oh, you've seen the day. We don't really want you here." I said, "Oh, okay." So I went straight out to the reception area and got on the phone, rang Buster Craig, who was president of Eastern Suburbs. I said, "Do you want me over there?" He said, "Oh, yeah, we could use you." So I finished up going to East. The worst thing I ever did, actually. I mean, the heart was with Souths, and I love Souths. I loved it, but the committee I had no time for. John O'Neill went to Manly. I did my best with East, but I had a 2-year contract at a massive fee of $5,000. $5,000 today, crimes. They're all on $1 million a day.
You had quite a media career, didn't you, after you finished Rugby League?
Yeah. World Championship Wrestling. Remember that? World Championship Wrestling. Bulldog Brow, the man of the hour, the 8th wonder of the hour. Dear, oh dear. Yeah, I went into as a commentator with the World Championship Wrestling.
Which I might add became very popular.
We used to rate a 14, which was not bad on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a nice lead into Ron Casey for Wild World of Sport. I mean, a 14, and then we did Saturday and Sunday. I used to record four programs on a Saturday, which lasted a month, and then Jack Little used to do another 4 programs in Melbourne.
Nelson Mandela said sport can change the world. As someone who served as a minister in a government, what's your perspective on that?
Sport has a knack of bringing people together. I mean, whether it's wars or what it is, you know, sport brings them together, and they seem to forget all their problems. I mean, when I was born in 1940, the war was on. I mean, Dover Heights, and I can remember the bombing of the harbour in Sydney and all that sort of thing. I was 5 years of age. I can remember getting evicted from our house at Dover Heights because when the blackouts were on, I used to send SOS signals out the window with a torch, and the army said, "Get out of your house." Dad said, "They can't do that." If they did, they sent us down to Lord Howe Street, where we had no cliff face. I couldn't cause any trouble. But yeah, sport, and I was lucky because Neville Rand agreed with sport. And I had a good friend in John Brown, the federal sports minister, who brought up this special funding scheme for Olympic sports. And we had money to spend. And it was with Neville Rand that we did the Sydney Cricket Ground, we did the Parramatta Stadium. But I used to call myself the Minister for Kindness because I used to hand out money.
Mike, you're the only living Australian to have represented their country in 3 different sports.
Yes.
It's been a real privilege to hear your story, and thanks for being on League Legends.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So have we. Thank you.
This has been a Fox League production, part of the Fox Sports Network.
Test, the international triple header, live on Fox League.
Dos Santos, who is the baddest man on the planet Earth?
And again, still nobody gonna take his breath from him.
She is sensational.
The former champion will face Mexican phenom Rodriguez.
What a fight.
Don't bring your dog out of me.
UFC 211.
This card is almost too good.
Live Sunday, May 14th from 12 p.m. on Main Event, Channel 521.
It's often called the 5th major. Golf's biggest names take on one of its most famous courses. Fox